Look, when Jay signed his contract, the big one was with Beyonce. Mm-hmm. When he signed that contract, the marriage contract, he got trophies. Now those trophies, trophies came rolling in, buddy.
And the grant goes to
Harry Styles.
So we can confirm that the most infamous Buffalo Soldier, Cherokee Bill, was genuinely Cherokee. The Carters are political power brokers who repeatedly sell out their own people. The Buffalo Soldiers, who were black people with a lot of southeastern indigenous ancestry.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up out of your sleep.
This past week, liberal cancel culture, not conservatives, but liberals, called for Beyonce to be canceled because of the highly controversial shirt she wore on the European leg of her Cowboy Carter tour. For her Juneteenth concert in Paris, she brandished a t-shirt that celebrates the Buffalo Soldiers, a post-Civil War all-black cavalry whom the United States deployed to tame the Wild West. On the back of the shirt, there's a long paragraph explaining who the Buffalo Soldiers are, but certain parts of it are controversial because the paragraph seems to glorify manifest destiny, colonization, and Indian removal. We're gonna read an excerpt from it. This is the sentence on which everyone has fixated. Quote, "The antagonists were the enemies of peace, order, and settlement. Warring Indians, bandits, cattle thieves, murderous gunmen, bootleggers, trespassers," spelled incorrectly with a double S in the middle, but I'm not going to do that to her, "and Mexican revolutionaries," end quote. The problem is obvious. It calls Indians the enemies of peace for simply refusing to be eradicated. Before I go further, let the record show that I stand with the Native American community in censuring Beyonce for the public statement she made, and even though I don't think this is enough to get her canceled either way, I agree that it should. That said, I disagree with the claim that by some that Beyonce wore this shirt in ignorance. I believe this statement is very deliberate, and I suspect the Cowboy Carter album, the tour, and the marketing campaign all actually constitute a calculated agenda to stifle the spiritual awakening of our people. She's been tasked with seizing control of the black reclamation of cowboy culture as the original cowboys, so that this movement can be separated from our aboriginal history. Your history is the rental ledger of your spirit. When you as a spirit bought into this physical experience, you leased reality estate. Not real estate, but reality estate. Your body is the property that your spirit leased. It's what houses your spirit until the term of the lease expires or until you're evicted. Your ancestors are past versions of yourself who are also co-signers on the lease because their lives constitute your credit history, which affects everything from congenital illnesses to natural talents or affinities and addictions. My point is that having incorrect information about our history causes spiritual dissonance. It disorients you so that you can't find the path your ancestors intended to take when consenting to your newest incarnation. Your landlord can charge you anything because you have no recollection of what it costs to be here. This is why, as Dr. King said in his I Have a Dream speech, the Negro is languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. The transatlantic slave trade erased your history. The Indian in you believes she's African, and the African in you thinks he's Egyptian, and the biracial child in you thinks she's a Latinx third race but entitled to white privilege somehow, and the man in you devalues the woman in you. Yet the woman in you thinks she owes loyalty to the man in you, and that man marries any woman but the woman in you, but he produces children with the woman in you and has no intention of fathering them.
Hey y'all, first of all,
Like and subscribe to the channel, but also, Unahia is recruiting, and if you don't know what Unahia is, we're a grassroots activist group lobbying Congress to amend a bill to require education and research to acknowledge the Negro origins of Aboriginal groups of North America. If any of you have it to give, please support the campaign using the QR code on your screen, join the campaign with a donation, and if you have the time, you can even join our staff to help guide the organization, not just for this campaign, but also future endeavors. Don't speak about it, be about it. Let's go.
For the record, we should clarify a few things about the Buffalo Soldiers. Only a handful of them are well known enough for thorough research to have been done on them. But of the ones whom historians and genealogists identify by name, a lot of them are actually warring Indians, quote unquote, themselves. For example, you can see arguably the most famous Buffalo Soldier in this photo from the Texas State Historical Association, or TSHA. This is Cherokee Bill and his mother, Ellen Lynch Goldsby. Lynch was her maiden name. The TSHA says, quote, Ellen Beck Goldsby Lynch, a freedwoman, member of the Cherokee Nation, laundress for the 10th United States Cavalry and wife and mother, was born on February 16, 1859, in the Delaware district of the Cherokee Nation in Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, end quote. So we can confirm that the most infamous Buffalo Soldier, Cherokee Bill, was genuinely Cherokee. Here's another example though. John Williams, reading a transcript of a program from Marfa Public Radio out of Texas. Quote, in Marfa, Richard Williams is descended from another Buffalo Soldier. Quote, we've known it since we were kids, cause my dad would tell us, would give us the story, end quote, says Williams. His ancestor was John Williams, the son of a runaway slave and a Seminole Indian woman. Richard Williams says most members of his family identify as Latino, but he says his own black ancestry is clear to anyone who sees him, end quote. So John Williams was a Seminole. And we don't know what the runaway slave was. We don't just assume he's African because he's a slave, because on this channel, we know all too well how underestimated the proliferation of white enslavement of Indians is. In fact, my last presentation just looked at how many Indians were enslaved by the Chichimeco in the Carolina colony and sold to the colonists, right? And a lot of runaways in Seminole territory came out of Carolina, did they not? So we've got a Cherokee and a Seminole. But this is honestly the tip of the iceberg because the recon unit scouting for the Buffalo Soldiers was entirely black Seminole. Check out what the National Park Service says. Quote, a group of black Seminole Indian scouts from Mexico helped the Buffalo Soldiers during the Plains Wars to track other American Indian groups. These men used their knowledge of the land to effectively do their job. 4 of them were awarded the Medal of Honor. End quote. The significance of this is that the enemies of peace out west were actually the Buffalo Soldiers, who were black people with a lot of southeastern indigenous ancestry no one talks about. They were weaponized by the Union after the Civil War to tame and develop the Wild West. I've explained in multiple presentations thus far that the story of colonization isn't what we typically think. It's about white people exploiting rivalries between black tribes by forming selective alliances, intermarrying with them, and trading resources and weapons. Black people sold each other out to partner with the colonizer, so we ended up destroying each other. The story of the Buffalo Soldiers is no different than that of the Red Stick War. It's Indians warring Indians. And for those who challenge this on the basis that they believe steadfastly in the American Negro being African, I'll remind you that the mainstream data backs us up. Out of 10.7 million African slaves reaching the Americas, only 388,747 made it to mainland North America from 1619 all the way to 1860. Yet the 1860 census shows 4.4 million of us. Read them and weep.
They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce,
But not you, man.
but they can't control me.
No,
You see, it
you-
ain't no name I won't name. It's up.
Remember back in 2016 when Kanye went off on Jay-Z and Beyonce during his Sacramento concert, accusing Beyonce of using blackmail to win big music awards? Well, just one day after the rant, Kanye was rushed to the hospital and placed on a 5150 involuntary psychiatric hold after an incident at his old personal trainer, Harley Pasternak's house. And Pasternak is the same guy who later threatened to institutionalize Kanye again and send him back to Zombieland.
One of a couple ways. First, you and I sit down and have a loving and open conversation, but you don't use cuss words. And everything that is discussed is based in fact, and not some crazy stuff that dumb friend of yours told you or you saw in a tweet. Second option, I have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to Zombieland forever. Play date with the kids just won't be the same. This is the way a Hollywood trainer was talking to me